HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City. The sun is out as it is the final week here of the month of April. We have a lot to talk about. Our phone number, 585-866-4326. You can hit us up on X. Our handle is at WGR Rochester. You can leave a comment in our YouTube or Twitch feed. Just leave it there. You can watch on YouTube or Twitch just in real time. We're on 95.7 FM, AM 950, and always streaming for free in the Odyssey app. I'm going to start with an unpopular opinion. And I know everybody wants me to come out and say, did the Bills get it right? Did they do this? Do they do that? You don't know. None of us know. Yeah. Would I have liked to see the Bills come up with a player like a Casey Concepcion? Am I mad that not only did the Browns swipe Casey Concepcion, but they also got Boston in the second round? I would have been happy with him too. But the thing is, I don't really evaluate players for a living. That's not my job. And we're just kind of doing this from the outside. We're just following along with other mocks. And I think the thing that is rubbing people the wrong way about the 2026 draft for the Buffalo Bills is, haven't we done this before? The second round edge rusher that, hey, is a little overlooked, or hey, we can make him something. I mean, what's the ceiling? Is it A.J. Epineza? Like, yeah, it's like here we go again. And T.J. Parker, by all accounts, all the scouting reports is he'll be a fine player, but I don't know if he's a difference maker. We identified corners being a need. That's a fact. I just didn't think that the Bills would be doing this in the second round. Igbinosun, okay, you go back to people that are just putting mocks together, and was that a little bit of a reach? The thing that I think, I don't want to say saves it, but where things started to turn, and it's funny, when we had Chris Trapasso on with us, Chris Trapasso, Trap Sheet, does a great job. We only get X number of minutes with him, right? But I wanted to sneak in one last question. It ended up being a question about Skylar Bell. Skylar Bell, wide receiver out of UConn. Skylar Bell, somebody that, if he's playing in the SEC, might have been going higher. Does this fit the Bills' DNA? This was Chris Trapasso on with us pre-draft.
I really like him. He's someone that I think, because of the DJ Moore trade, the Bills don't have to go with an outside X big receiver. Just get the best player. You have your slot, you have your outside player, you have Cook, Kincaid, Skylar Bell. Go look at his combine and his pro day. He tested absolutely through the roof. I don't think he's going to create much after the catch like Shakir, but in terms of route pacing and route salesmanship, he absolutely has that. And I think ever so often he can take the lid off the defense. So Skylar Bell is another name who would make sense because he can separate, and I think that's what the Bills need most.
So is he somebody that could be one of the top 5 receivers on the team? You betcha. I would say so. What this does bring into focus is, and you heard Brandon Beane on this morning with Jeremy White. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, the Keon Coleman, let's try this again. And that's where Beane is leaving himself up for criticism. I'm sure you could have easily have traded him. I'm sure you could have taken a receiver earlier. Me, I would have loaded up a little bit more on the offensive side. But because of the new scheme, my gosh, you ended up having how many picks for the Buffalo Bills? 10 picks. 10. And 7 trade downs. Only 1 pick was where the pick was entering the draft. That's something there. So we'll talk a little Bills draft. Team kind of quiet here. Oh, why are we messing around with Jermaine Burton? That guy? Now, it's not even clear if he's going to be on the roster heading to camp, one of the 90. But if you are taking somebody with character concerns, wouldn't there be kind of an offset of, hey, but he's super talented? 2 years in Cincinnati, third-round draft pick out of Alabama, and your number one catches 100 yards. Whoop-de-doo, right? Oh, but, Gene, you don't understand. They have great receivers in front of them. Okay, fair. Last year, this is the guy that was inactive every single game. And I don't know whether he quit or whether they said get out, but it's the month of December, and he's going to be inactive again, and he decides I'm not going to Buffalo. Which, the way NFL contracts work is like this. The money that you get in the bonus, that's what you really want, right? You want the bonus, you want your upfront money. Who doesn't want upfront money? But for the base salary, you're paid per game. So this guy might not have liked his lot in life in Cincinnati, but he essentially forfeited a month of salary. That's not smart. So he had no numbers to speak of last year, was just kind of sitting out there. But, by the way, there's this allegation of domestic violence that happened somewhere between 2004 and 2005. So that alone would tell me, hey, Sean McDermott's not here anymore. You're bringing this guy. We'll talk some Bills here on the show today for sure. And Sabres. Again, our number 585-866-4326. That is the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll talk to Dan Bates, 13 Wham, Buffalo Plus. He will join us, and certainly we'll talk a little Sabres with Dan, as Dan loves his pucks too. Dan Bates joining us in hour number 2. Hour number 1, wrapping up another fine marathon type of coverage that you heard Saturday on our fine station. Nate Geary will be joining us. Nate Geary, WGR Buffalo, will be joining us, and he will give us his thoughts on what the Bills did right, maybe where they might have missed. But again, my take is this. I can't say anything. The example I gave on Friday was, for anybody that was upset that the Bills drafted, didn't even have a first-round pick, they completely got out of there, was this, is that, all right, well, you can't evaluate the draft class now. Can we go back and evaluate other draft class? And the example I gave was, well, all right, 2024. I think that's fair, right? Or 23 this was. 4 years in. That was when the Bills moved up to get Dalton Kincaid. If they move up 5 more slots, that's where Jackson Smith and Jigba went. Osiris Torrance, round 2. Okay, that's a hit. Good job. Round 3, pick 91, Dorian Williams. I know some people really are high on Dorian Williams. I just think that he's somebody that you can get better production out of at that position. And then everything else was a miss. Not on the team anymore. So for this year's class, really it's what? 2029? That's how you have to think about this. A lot of names here. And I'm also not a fan of I like the first-round pick because if you do hit on it, that fifth-year option gives you a little more time. That fifth-year option is a little more cost-controlled. None of these picks will be here a fifth year without getting that second contract. So that's also something to kind of keep in mind. 585-866-4326. The hockey news today, Zadorov getting a $5,000 fine. Woo! That'll teach him. I'm not concerned about Boston rising up here in Game 5 tomorrow night here on WGR Rochester because not only did they get their butts handed to them yesterday, they unraveled at the end. Like, Swayman chirping at his own teammates on the bench. Okay, you couldn't wait until you get behind closed doors for that. And granted, there were some miscues. That Benson goal, I understand if you're a defenseman, the primary job is, all right, you take goalie, you take the shooter, I'm going to take the guy. There really wasn't a guy. It was very bizarre to see that, but that was one of many mistakes. They couldn't get the puck out of the zone. Buffalo just dropped the hammer, and that's kind of what we were hoping for all along. Just a nice, relaxing Sunday afternoon watching Buffalo Sabres hockey, right? Until the goonery starts happening at the end. And if you missed it, Zadorov, who is the most penalized player in this league, decides to go up from behind and just take a two-hand cross-check to the back, which breaks the stick of Rasmus Dahlin. Now, let's credit Dahlin because it would be very easy for anybody to kind of get sucked into a situation like that, right? And then you're fighting, and then, well, Dahlin skates away. It's a major penalty at that point. And sure, there's some fisticuffs afterward for guys just sticking up for their teammate. I could not believe the analysis by Darren Pang. If you were watching the TNT feed yesterday, like, all right, is this worthy? Well, at least he didn't hit him in the neck. Oh, okay. Fantastic. Like, great. We're going to give him credit for that. Game number 5 tomorrow night here on WGR Rochester. And now it's just kind of fun, right? Where last night watching Tampa, Montreal. Tampa wins that game north of the border. So now that's essentially the best of 3, right? With Tampa Bay and Montreal playing, as we say in the sports bar, the pivotal Game 5. When you're tied at 2, it's always pivotal. So that'll be coming up, which means the Sabres, if they wrap it up Tuesday, they might be waiting around. And sometimes when you wait around, you think, oh, that's good. We can rest guys up. It might work against Buffalo. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But you can see where the Sabres win, and that might be the last game we have for a week here while everything else has to get caught up. We shall see on that. Unfortunately, season's over for the Rochester Americans. As hopefully you listened yesterday. Credit the team Friday, rising up, winning, and forcing a deciding Game 3 in Toronto. And it was just one of those games yesterday where you could kind of tell that, hey, Toronto is the better team. Amherst made a few mistakes in the early going. They fought back, empty netter at the end, right after a flurry that, can you imagine if it tied it up and sent it to overtime? Well, it did not, and then a backhander all the way going down the ice, and that's how the game ended. 4-2 would be the final. That's storyline number 1. And as Don Stevens would tell you, that's your primary storyline, right? That this team with a lot of heart, and all right, this isn't youth sports, right? At youth sports, you're like, yeah, we got the most out of them. I'm so proud of these kids. Bottom line is, like, this team, when the call-ups happen, they weren't very good. Right? So there wasn't a lot coming up from Jacksonville where you could say, all right, it was piecemeal together. You beat Providence. You had a nice little run there. The schedule down the end was brutal. And next year, it's going to look a lot different. It always looks a lot different, and that's kind of the bummer here, right? If you love this, particular players, and I remember, like, wait, they're not bringing back Murray? Well, some of these guys will have opportunities to go overseas, perhaps, and make more money. Some of them might just kind of, be sent. There's a Sabre team now that should be thinking about the Cup year in and year out. I will again say this. I don't think it happens for the Sabres this year as much as I would say this is awesome. Normally it's a process, right, where you just don't go from the worst team in the league and then win a championship. Sure, it can happen, I suppose. See the 1991 Minnesota Twins or whatever it was, the Patriots, but they didn't win a championship. The point is that when we get to the offseason and the Sabres are not going to be picking up high, there might be trades happening. There should be trades happening. How do you improve this Sabre team? Can they get better up the middle? And we will have lots of time to talk Sabre offseason. But now that the Amherst offseason is here, well, this is where it kind of starts. And I think the question is about Devin Levi. Do you bring back Devin Levi for year number 4 as the primary starter? Does Devin Levi even want to come back? Well, that's not his choice, right? But a loss to Syracuse in the postseason, a loss to Laval, last year, and now a loss to Toronto. And yes, out of those 3 years, this was the team that really had the least in front of a Devin Levi. But the way you see things in Buffalo right now, I just see a goaltending situation that I don't see changing anytime soon. Sure, the guys on GR will talk about, yeah, let's go get Connor Hellebuck or Shesterkin, or, hey, that's all fun. And maybe they are available. Maybe Jarmo Kekalainen swings for the fences. But I think we all can kind of agree that next year, work this year, why can't it work again? Line and UPL rotation, let's go. Well, where does that leave Devin Levi? In Rochester again? Or somewhere else? Would he be better off with a change of scenery? And I go back to that, Andrew Peters, Craig Rivet podcast from the beginning of the year where Devin Levi asked out. And apparently was said no. Obviously he said no. He's here. And that was kind of the end of it, right? We asked around on it, and nobody confirmed it, but nobody denied it either. So it kind of tells you all you need to know. And also, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you think like, hey, I want to go somewhere else where I can play in the NHL, I think I'm ready. The bottom line is Devin Levi did not answer the question 100% definitive. What are you doing here? What are you doing in Rochester? Why are you here? To me, that's you have to force the issue. Yuri Kulik at the end, and unfortunately for Kulik, not available up in Buffalo. Like, hey, why are you here? Like and Konsta Helenius. I think Helenius will battle, and he'll get some time up in Buffalo, but you could see him just, okay, why are you here in Rochester? You could see kind of trending in that direction. That's the storyline, the Amherst season wrapping up, but he would never say this is storyline 1B. It is absolutely storyline 1B that with that yesterday, and hopefully when you're seeing this, like, oh, bummer, I actually have to listen to hear Don Stevens sign off, and I think Don did a great job of keeping his emotions in check. Tim, we don't have this.
It's not on here. I have it in my email.
Okay. Well, we'll play that for you later in the show. So we'll get that.
Season draws to a close for the Rochester Americans, coming out on the short end of this one here tonight. Against the Toronto Marlies, 4-2 is the final score. And, it's so sad for a season to come to an end. And so many things are coming to an end here tonight.
Yeah.
Rochester had goals from Helenius and Nadeau, but came up short. And a great night in goal once again for Devin Levi. And such a strong effort for this whole team as they come out again on the short end. And so, I don't know if I can get through this or not.
Well, the good thing is the station cleared us for as long as we need, but,
but the only thing is you got to talk.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, I stop and I think back. There's been so much that's happened in the last couple of months, and so much has been sent my way as far as tributes and accolades, and that it's just been mind-boggling. It's been incredible, but I don't want anybody to lose focus on it's the team that provides the entertainment and provides what we all love, and that is Rochester Americans hockey. And let's never forget that. So my thanks to the players, to the coaches, to the Amherst staff, hockey staff, and then, of course, to the Amherst office staff. And I've been so privileged to work with so many great people in the office and also on the hockey side. I get to benefit of both sides of it, so that has really meant something. And there's so many things I could say and would like to say. In fact, I figured out that I could say thank you to 100 people a day for the rest of my life and never get to everybody that I need to thank. For all these years of support, all of it meant so much to me. I thank you all. I don't know. Thank you to Andrew. Did a great job this year, especially on all those alumni interviews. They were tremendous. And to the organization from Terry Pagula on down, the best organization that I've ever worked for in my 58 years, the best management and ownership group of all those years, and just there's just one thing after another, and I can't fit it all in. I don't think, and right now my mind is just a total blockage, if you will, as far as what I should and would like to say. But I am so blessed in this life, in this career, that I've had what I've had. I couldn't have asked for anything better. And the fans, I love all of you. Thank you so much. And forever in the future, go Amherst.
Wow. So, went to break, and then Andrew wrapped it up from there. So that was Don Stevens signing off as the voice of the Rochester Americans for 40 years, as yesterday came to a screeching halt. So, Don, we're going to talk one more time to Don, unless he lost our number. That's entirely possible.
He might have lost our number, but I have his number.
All right, so that's but that is as from the heart as you would ever hear. And if you're somebody who grew up in our town listening to Don Stevens, you take great pride in that. That is somebody that stayed here, that loved here, continues to love here. And I have a feeling that, he's not going to disappear entirely. Don Stevens retiring after a fantastic career.
Yeah, that continued off air, and he had some kind words to share with me, and there were other, obviously that he froze there to some extent. Andrew finished the broadcast, but after all of that, off air, there was a little more extended, and it was great for me to hear, and a phenomenal 40-year career with the Amherst, 58 years overall. It was great.
We'll talk to Nate Geary, WGR. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills football. We'll invite your calls at 866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
Sports Update.
Sabres with a chance to advance to round 2 coming up tomorrow night. 6-1 was the final on Sunday. Boston trailing in this best-of-7 now 3-1. Meanwhile, season's over for the Rochester Americans Sunday, falling in Toronto by a score of 4-2. Head coach Mike Leone of the Amerks reflecting on the season.
I'm really proud of this team. It's been a gruesome year mentally, physically, and guys, we found a way with this group to, in my opinion, push them as far as we could take this group. And that's a first round exit, but I thought we maximized what we had in the team this year, and I think a lot of our guys got better.
We'll talk some Buffalo Bills coming up next. Nate Geary, WGR, to join us. The Rochester Red Wings open a series tomorrow at home against Worcester. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
The best local sports talk in the Flower City. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
I think if there's one thing that's kind of clear is that I don't know if Brandon Beane really liked the depth on this team entering this draft. And that's the best thing I could. Just more guys. 10. My goodness. 7 trades. Most of them being trade downs. Nate Geary, Buffalo Bills, longtime observer. WGR did the long shift again over the weekend. Nate, appreciate your time here on a Monday. And gosh, is it fair to say we like what the Bills did on Saturday, but not so much there on Thursday and Friday? Nate, how are you today? I think we lost Nate. I hear Nate Geary. Maybe he's on mute.
Sorry, guys. I was on mute. On mute. That's on me. It's classic. That's a classic mistake I made.
All right, let's start this all over. Nate, welcome to the show. How did you think there? Did the Bills get it right on Saturday, not so much Thursday and Friday?
You know, I liked Thursday. They didn't take a player, right? So, I mean, there's not a ton of, like, in terms of personnel that you like about Thursday. But I liked the aggressiveness. I think everybody was of the mind, right? And I know it's the NFL, it's the Bills, everybody. It's a moment-by-moment reaction. That's what we're in this game for, right? We have our jobs for the moment-by-moment reaction. But I think if you said at the start of the week, like Monday, Tuesday last week, said the Bills were going to trade out of the first round, I think a lot of people, I know myself, I think I was team trade down for a couple weeks now. I think that was our best case scenario. It's what I wanted to see them happen. And I think the further and further we got to draft day, or the closer and closer, I should say, it felt more realistic that the trade back could happen if there were some scenarios that played out. I had a long thought that Ty Simpson was going to be gone before the Bills got to 26. And if to me, the real way for them to trade back was going to be a run on offensive lineman. And boy, was there a run on offensive lineman. And I really think it put the Bills in a situation where obviously Houston moves up to take an offensive lineman. New England trades up to get an offensive lineman. So like you saw that run on O-line and how important that was for positioning for the Bills to be able to move back the way that they wanted to. I have a hard time with anyone who's looking at this in a vacuum and saying, well, you know, Brandon Beane's got to make a pick on Thursday. I don't know. I disagree with, especially with draft class like this, right, where there is a handful of top end talent and everybody from 15 to 40 kind of felt like in the same sort of tier of players. So, you know, if you're telling me right now that the scenario was the Bills actively tried to move up to get a Casey Concepcion, he obviously did not fall to 26. I didn't think he would. And you're sitting there, they had a chance to take Caden McDonald at 26. They had a chance to take him at 35. They didn't. You know, so I think they got the guy that they probably – and if they liked T.J. Parker all along, and, you know, Malachi Lawrence maybe was a guy they wanted. Obviously, he goes to Dallas a couple of picks before the Bills at 20. Or maybe it was 21 after they traded out. But, I sit here and say, well, if they didn't have their guys and they like T.J. Parker, move back and then take T.J. Parker because then you end up getting more assets. And I thought from an asset management perspective – Brandon Beane really had a masterclass. I think it's reflected in a lot of the grades you're seeing across the league today. I think a lot of people like the draft from a personnel perspective, but also 7 trades. You mentioned it. I had at 2.5 was his average per draft. I had that heavy on the over. Boy, did the over hit.
Yeah, I mean, second-round picks, not only do they have to play right away. So TJ Parker, at minimum, he's going to be part of the rotation, right, on the outside. What are your thoughts on Igbinosun, though, the corner? Because we all knew corner was a need for this team, but if you're taking a corner in round 2, does this in any way put Maxwell Harrison on notice, would you say?
I don't. I know a lot of people kind of went there thinking, okay, or is this an indictment on their first-round pick of last year? I wasn't of the mind that it was an indictment on Harrison at all. I think what Brandon Beane said is something he means, and it's all you have to kind of do is go back to what Brandon Beane has historically said at season-ending press conferences. You know, you are as good or your issues are as obvious as the ones of your last game, right? And I think their last game really showed the lack of depth in their secondary. And, you know, having Darnell Savage get beat over the top late in that game, having Dane Jackson get beat over the top late in that game, they didn't have players they felt comfortable going to. And I know, you know, like they go out and they make some moves, and Brandon Beane makes some questionable moves that I thought thinned out their corner room at the end of last year, trying to go for Darius Slay, and then him never showing up. But you know, I mean, at this point in his career, is Darius Slay giving you even more than they were getting from Dane Jackson? I don't know the answer to that question, but I guess when it all said and done, Igbinosun is, I think, probably a guy they're going to feel more comfortable with going to if there's an injury. He's long. I think that he might get some opportunities to play if they're going to play a team where maybe they're going to run more man coverage and more press man. That's really his game. So I think there's opportunities for him to play, maybe not as a starter, but be a guy that comes in situationally. I think he's going to be a big special teams contributor. And I think the one thing you're going to see throughout this draft class, whether it's, you know, Alarms or whether it's, Jalen Kilgore, whether it's Igbinosun, like, I think these are players that are going to be pretty notable special teams contributors right out of the gate. I know that's maybe not sexy to everybody, but I do think that's going to be a big thing for this team. Is I think they wanted to get better on special teams. They got better on special teams, and we'll kind of see how it goes. I still think there are probably a handful of veteran moves that are going to be made, whether a DJ Reader is one of them. I don't know if they can find a number that will make sense under their cap, but I also think they could make another move at linebacker, and I do think you can pencil in, just the way that Brandon's talking about corner, I think you can pencil in them, if it's not Tre'Davious White coming back, someone of his ilk coming back, and because I think they want 4 corners they can really rely on and trust.
Yeah, I mean, last year, Nate, is all right. Don't turn the ball 4 times over, like four times. That's number one, unless why the Bills went out. But I just looked at the depth, and there just wasn't a lot of it. That's why this makes sense that, all right, trade down, more competition, all that. There's also kind of a, hey, if the Bills at pick 62 took Skylar Bell, no one's complaining about that. To get him 2 rounds later, Nate, your thoughts on that wide receiver? Because that was somebody we kind of zeroed in. I'm like, okay, I think a lot of us, knowing Brandon Beane's history, we're thinking, not expecting a wide receiver here in round 1, and it turned out being anybody, but who could be that mid-round receiver? And this is somebody that, I don't know if he's playing in a bigger conference, maybe he actually goes higher than the 4th round in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of Skylar Bell draft. I agree. I did not see him falling to where he fell and the Bills getting him in the 4th round. I was ecstatic. And, like, listen, I liked Chris Bell a lot from Louisville. I thought the original, move from 66 to 62 was potential for a wide receiver there. So I thought that, the Bills waiting until they did, I really needed them to secure a player I think could contribute. And listen, he's a 4th round pick. But he's a 4th round pick with a lot of production and age. He's 24 years old, right? So this is not a guy that I think is necessarily someone that they need to spend a lot of time developing. I think he's going to be kind of your out of the box, come out and play. And listen, if he's got very similar, traits as Stephon Diggs. I'm not telling you I think he's going to be Stephon Diggs, but I think with what is on this roster right away for that number 2 receiver spot. We'll see if it happens, but I'm very excited about Bell. I'm excited about where they got him in value-wise. I maybe would have liked to see them take chances on sure. But as long as they ended up felt good about it, so I felt happy that they walked out of this draft with a guy real game changer for them at wide receiver.
All right, Nate, we're going to fight our way through the connection here. Hopefully you're going to drive and it's going to kind of clear up. Nate Geary, WGR, joining us here is, gosh, you had all these other picks on Saturday too, whether that's Kilgore or Durant. Of the picks we haven't talked about yet, which one was your favorite, Nate?
Sorry, Gene, you broke up there. I should be in a better now. What was the question?
Yeah, of the picks that we haven't mentioned, whether that's Kilgore or Durant, which one's your favorite?
Well, I mean, Kilgore is, I think, just value-based. I think if you look at Dane Brugler, really liked him, just didn't really know, what he was going to pan out to be in the NFL in terms of if he transitioned to safety, he kind of felt like that was going to be his best position. And if a team was going to be able to get him in the third or fourth round, he felt like it would have been a steal. Getting him in the fifth definitely felt like a steal. So loved the pick of Kilgore. But I think if I'm looking at these picks and trying to talk out a favorite, I like Eagle Zoller from TCU, the linebacker. Another guy, Chris Trapasso, I think had his number 2 linebacker in this draft. So there wasn't necessarily a consensus on him, but 6'2.5", sideline to sideline kind of guy. Is a guy that put up big numbers at TCU, comes from a Power 4 program. I think based on who they've got at linebacker right now, he's probably penciled in as your backup behind Dorian Williams. But I think there's a scenario where he pushes Dorian Williams as a starter through training camp. Another guy, I think, too, that will be an immediate special team. So I like Elam Zoller quite a bit. He might have been my favorite pick of the weekend if we're taking Skylar Bell out of it.
So we get to the second round, and Denzel Boston is a name that we're all kind of considering. All right, maybe that's the guy that the Brandon Beane identified. We can trade down a few, and he ends up going to Cleveland at pick 39. I guess my question is this: Boston, we all kind of identified similar skill set. Keon Coleman, are you buying into the Keon Coleman redemption storyline this season, Nate? Certainly seems like the Bills are going to give him an opportunity, perhaps, to claim a role on this team.
Yeah, that's the working line right now. I'm still sort of don't know how much I buy it, but they're going to have an opportunity to have it play out, right? So, listen. Regardless of what their willingness is to let Keon Coleman get another opportunity here, it's very obvious to me that this coaching staff and the way this organization is structured, they are, I think, turning a page on their willingness to let guys prove them wrong. I mean, Jermaine Burton they bring in, right? He's a former third-round pick of Cincinnati who should have probably been a first-round pick if the off-the-field stuff wasn't such a concern. He gets cut last year from Cincinnati, and now he's in Bill's rookie minicamp this upcoming 2 weeks. And, that's a perfect example of a move I just don't think ever gets made with Sean McDermott here. Again, it's not a shot at Sean, but what it is, I think, is a sort of a changing of the guard. So I do think that a Keon Coleman's going to get this opportunity in a refresh or a hard reset, as Brandon Beane kind of mentioned it as. Whether or not he takes advantage of it, I don't know. I think it's probably a separate conversation. I saw him, Stevie Johnson post a picture of him, those two guys working together. I think part of this guy, to me anyways, Gene, right, is I think you can have two schools of thoughts with Keon Coleman. Is he mature enough to take advantage of the opportunity he has? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. The one I feel like I have a better answer to is he any good? And I'm not convinced he's that good. And if that's the case, he can be a church kid for all we know, and can do everything right on and off the field. But if he's just not good enough to separate regularly and make plays in this offense, sure, it's great that they're giving him a second or third chance. But if he just can't play at a high enough level, it may not matter.
Well, that's fair. But the Jermaine Burton question is he actually any good? And I understand, hey, he might have been a first-rounder. If you have off-the-field concerns, the talent and the production has to outweigh that, and he had a big old zero, not even active for a single game with Cincinnati. And in his rookie year, 4 catches for 107 yards. Ooh, wow. I don't even know why the Bills are wasting their time with this guy.
Well, I think it's a dart throw on talent, and the question's going to be, he can do everything right, but can you trust him with a 53-man roster spot? Let's say he works through rookie minicamp and he ends up being a player come training camp time, and he's a guy that's fighting for a spot on this roster. The question will be, can you trust a player like that who's proven to, let his teammates and let his coaches down back in Cincinnati? The thing I look at is, he did have legitimate talent. He was a top recruit to Alabama, and was a player that, I think Nick Saban even talked a little bit about during his draft process, was just a player that's going to be hard to trust off the field. And I think if they get a player that maybe understands the opportunity that he has right now, and maybe this is probably his last chance, Gene, in the league. He's 24 years old, right? Mm-hmm. So, this is not a player who's 30, who's been washed out of the league. This is a player that I think universally was thought of as a first-round pick, but can't get out of his own way. And the question will be, is the maturity level good enough for him to be able to overcome the issues that has plagued him so far in this career? I'm skeptical, but I think if you're a team that's looking for cheap labor, what could be a better dart throw than a player that I think universally was thought of as a high talent, but is sort of wasting his career? Give him this opportunity to sort of convince himself and others that he's not going to throw it away. And if he does, great. If he doesn't, it's not like they're wasting an asset on him, or they didn't trade for him. It's a dart throw and a rookie training camp, or rookie mini camp signing. Let's see what he does with it.
Yeah, and Nate, you look around the AFC East. I thought the Jets had a nice draft, actually, but until they get the quarterback, and maybe they have one, they drafted another guy. What does it matter? Miami, okay, they're not close either, and don't get me started on New England. I think New England regresses. We have to consider the Bills a favorite to reclaim the division, do we not?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I've liked a lot of Jets drafts historically. The question is the coach good enough? And to your point, is there a quarterback? And I've got, questions about both, just where Geno Smith has been the last couple of years. I think on paper, their offense looks the most competent it's looked in, a decade plus. But, it's still Geno, and Geno really, really struggled last year. So I don't know, Kate Klubnik, he's not really, inserting a ton of optimism for me. But again, I'm a hater. So I just look at the division. I agree with you on the regression from New England incoming. I think that the playoffs really revealed a lot of their weaknesses. And listen, it's a week-to-week league, but I think, when you have success in the NFL, what you have to be prepared to do, and I don't think that, Mike Vrabel's not prepared to do this, but you kind of have to keep evolving. And I think they got sort of figured out by the end of last year. Their offense really struggled in the playoffs. That was well noted. What they were going to do on defense, I don't know. And they addressed some offensive line issues. I know they move up with the Bills and draft an offensive lineman, and maybe that's the guy that takes over for Morgan Moses at right tackle. But there's just a lot of offseason nonsense with them too, with Mike Vrabel and this whole Diana Rossini thing. So I would say that their mind isn't fully on football right now. They've got plenty of time to turn it around. This time last year, a week or so from now, I was in Massachusetts when the whole Stephon Diggs on the boat thing came out. So there seems to be, controversy surrounding that franchise really for a decade now, decade plus. So, and you're right. The Dolphins are the Dolphins. I think that might be the weakest roster in football. They're going to have a real chance at the number one pick. I did like them drafting Jacob Rodriguez, though. I did like that. And they ended up with Chris Bell, who I think could be a steal from this draft out of Louisville, wide receiver. So, I'm looking at the division, and I kind of look at them as the weakest division in football. It's going to be a two-horse race. I just think the Bills on a bounce-back season and kind of seeing what the Patriots are about, I think they're ready to sort of reclaim it for sure.
Yeah.
I feel very confident in that.
Yeah, and Nate, before we let you go, it's just been refreshing. Maybe it took a few attention away from the draft itself, but just to have the Sabres kind of doing what they're doing, and just a little tiny taste of adversity game 2, and just for them to answer that the way they did, a sound win in game 4, and then is the game 3, and then drop the hammer the way they did in game 4. Yeah, just a bludgeoning. This feels like this is going to get wrapped up here coming up tomorrow night.
It'd be nice. I'd like for them to wrap up at home. I think that would have the vibes in that arena will be off the charts. I think that that game two really sometimes a young team in the playoffs who I think was coming in riding a high, winning the division, kind of needed that punch in the face, right? I think they have shown this year that they're an ability to bounce back when they get punched in the face. And I thought it was really important for them. And it just, to me, the first three games, it felt a little like they were playing Boston's game. Man, did they flip the script last night, or yesterday afternoon, I guess I should say. They forced Boston. The last two games, their defense just cannot make a defensive zone exits. And the forecheck is just overwhelming for those Boston defenders. And I think the Sabres are finding a nice little formula for themselves against these bigger, more physical teams that are slow, that want to try to possess the puck and force the Sabres out of play in their game. I give Boston a lot of credit. Those first two games, I thought that they really put the Sabres in a tough spot. But I didn't think how they were having success with those long passes because the Sabres defense is a very aggressive group, and they were sort of catching them in those long passes, giving up 5 breakaways in the first two games, which is just I just never thought a sustainable way for them to stay in the series, getting major chances 2-on-1s and breakaways like that. So the fact the Sabres have cleaned that up a little bit, and I'll say the goaltending right now through these two games with Alex Lyon it's been unbelievable. If they can get this the rest of the way, it's going to be hard for UPL to get back in the ice and get Alex Lyon off of it. So if they can keep getting this goaltending, I like them to wrap this series up in 5. And, man, does that put an interesting note on what round 2 could look like. It looks like it could be a Canadian Sabres round 2. And, boy, I think a lot of people will be signing up for that.
Oh, if it's Tampa, are you kidding? Either or, but it's,
I don't think you can lose.
No, you can't lose. And, honestly, I think it's going to be great because we can look ahead. They can't. Carolina is on the horizon. And, boy, if you love Sabre history, wouldn't that be fun? And that's a different animal, too. So, Nate, appreciate the time. Tell everybody, whereabouts now on the WGR schedule we can hear more Nate Geary.
Yeah, so, things quiet down for me as we head into the end of spring, into summer, now that the draft is over. So I'll be filling in from time to time. And maybe some stuff on the horizon here for some afternoon opportunities with some of the openings on our station in Buffalo. But until Bill season, you can hear me whenever you need me. I guess
there we go. Yeah,
I guess my answer for this one.
Yeah,
my phone's always open for you, my friend.
Yeah, we'll be talking, Nate. So appreciate all the work you're doing, and rest up there. Busy weekend for you, Nate Geary. Appreciate your time, bud.
Of course, buddy.
Yeah, Nate joining us here from Buffalo. Likes what Brandon Bean did. Funny, because we all live in the moment, and I see your DMs, for friends. I get your texts, and we all have what is the next Bills pick? Next Bills pick is going to be 62. We all have, this is the guy I would like for the Bills to pick. TJ Parker just wasn't a guy that we were kind of zeroing in on, thinking that's a difference maker. You're hoping that one of these guys ends up being the difference maker. That's what you need. This is a defense right now that, Oliver's really good. Rousseau is good. Benford is good. There isn't a game wrecker over on that side of the ball. You think Oliver could be that, but you got to see it more than just, one hit on Derrick Henry. We'll have Tim Schneider's terrible take of the day. That'll be coming your way next. Dan Fates for 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus, also in hour number 2. Our phone number, 585-866-4326 here on WGR Rochester. Hey, it's Gene here for Window Nation. Spring is here. It's a great time to open your windows, and wait, your windows won't open easily. They leak when it rains. That wouldn't have been good on Saturday, right? They crack glass. They need repainting. Again, getting top-quality custom-fit windows from Window Nation is easy and affordable. Right now, during the More You Buy, the More You Save sale, you can save up to 50% off all your windows. Plus, you can get them with 0 interest for 5 years. During uncertain times, one of the best investments you can make is in your home. In fact, experts report that windows retain 80% of their value. With Window Nation, you'll get windows that easily slide open and closed. They're made with top quality seals so they won't leak when it's rainy or windy. And unlike other windows, they're maintenance free. They're so good, Window Nation stands behind them with a lifetime warranty, and they're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Don't wait to put an end to your window problems. Save big with Window Nation's The More You Buy, The More You Save sale going on now. Sale ends soon, so visit windownation.com now for a consultation. Planning
You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
4 first period goals from the Sabres yesterday, and like you just knew, all right, at that point, boy, this is fun, it's relaxing, and now it's, you could say it's a little bit of comedic relief, right? When you win 6-1, is there really anything you should bitch about? Not because we're sports fans, we can bitch about the power play, but come on, you have to chuckle, right? The second goal happens 2 seconds after the penalty expires. The penalty was on Arvidsson. Victor Arvidsson is nowhere near the play, all right? So he's nowhere near the zone. So at that point, it's still in the zone itself, 5-on-4. So it does not count as a power play goal. And now the Sabres, they're 0 for 15 in this series. Going back, they're 0 for the last 37, even though, all right, you can kind of say the penalty led directly to a Sabre goal to make the score 2-0. Dan Fates, 13 wham, Buffalo plus. We will talk a little Sabres, certainly a lot of Bills draft. That's with Dan coming up next hour. Time now for Tim's thoughts.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
Couple days without hearing it, it's still the same result.
Do you realize, though, people are, it's catching on, and people are coming over to your side. They are happy that you ended up a Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, who is not related to David Boston.
Correct.
Did you see that? Greenberg, of all people, like, oh, that must make his father David Boston.
I was surprised. I learned it in that moment, knowing, like, once I saw that somebody else called him out for being, I assumed it to be his son, but I was then learned on the internet that was an untruth.
That's not true. Like, you're handed notes about each player. I mean, it could have just been a Ron Burgundy thing. Somebody just didn't do their work, and then you hand it to him, and he's, reading, anyhow.
Those are two players that you would love on the Buffalo Bills, and I am here to tell you that I think you and Nate are both kind of coping. The Bills did not have a good draft, and it takes time to find out, but there is no reason to be excited after what the Buffalo Bills did this weekend if the glory pick is a Saturday receiver. The Buffalo Bills blew it. They had a first-round pick equipped, traded down, and still ended up with nothing.
Well, yeah, I can't say you're right or wrong on this until we actually see this play out, though. That's the whole thing. Like we could say now, Keon Coleman, that was not good, right? You're number 3. We shouldn't be having all these questions, right?
And they're still lying to themselves. They had an opportunity to get rid of him this weekend, and they said, no, we were all in on him.
Well, all right. So they all are. Brandon Beane's not stupid. Let's just kind of go on that baseline, right? That if it doesn't work out the next year or two, who's the next guy out? It's not Pete Coelho. Pete Coelho, yeah, bringing in the dollars. He's all signed of that. Everything's good there. Let me take a different angle on this. And I'd have to go back in time and look at other quarterbacks that bitch right or wrong about selections. The one that comes to mind is Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger, the year they drafted Mason Rudolph in the 3rd round, was like, why? That's not going to help us. And he's got a point. If he's the starting quarterback, what is that really? What is that doing? You're kind of drafting a replacement. I'd have to go back and listen to Rodgers because they never drafted a first-round receiver for Aaron Rodgers. And now we can say, okay, this is almost by design, that Brandon Beane, in a position where you always have to replenish, just does not want to do that with a first-round receiver. And I thought for sure Boston was kind of the, can you get an upgrade over Coleman? Select the guy that you were hoping Keon Coleman could be. And when they passed on him and they took another TJ, well, and again, I shouldn't knock at him. Maybe that ends up being a good pick for Buffalo, too. We will talk, certainly. 13 Wham Buffalo Plus, Dan Fates will join us. You could join us, too, on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 585-866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia, WGR Rochester.
Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
WROCAM, WBEE, HD2 Rochester, and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Sabres can wrap this up tomorrow night. Game 5 in Buffalo. Sabres up 3-1 on Boston. Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff, though, knows what's coming up.
The challenge is the team that's going to come in there, they hit their highest desperation level. That's your biggest challenge, is your desperation has to exceed theirs, knowing that they have nothing to lose anymore. And sometimes when there's nothing to lose, you can create enough chaos and enough passion that it makes it extremely hard for the team that's trying to close it out to win a game.
Our pregame coverage tomorrow night will begin at 6 o'clock. The season's over for the Amerks. The Amerks falling in Game 3 in Toronto by 4-2 score. Bills draft review. We'll talk to Dan Fates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus later this hour. Rochester Red Wings open a series at home tomorrow night against Worcester. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Stay for a while, you're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coke, it's sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills, Americans, Red Wings, and Nighthawks. Sports bar. For Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2, and you found us. Thank you for joining us here on this beautiful Monday afternoon. The sun is out. From the High Falls Studios, this is the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you. Tim Schneider, our fine producer. Dan Drummy doing his work in the background, as always. You can join us a few ways. You can leave a comment for those watching on YouTube and Twitch right now. You can hit us up on X, WGR Rochester as our handle. You can always give us a call at 585-866-4326. That is the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. And, whether you want to talk about the Sabres, but what is there to talk about? Like, what Lindy's saying there, he's absolutely right. But it's not only that Boston lost; they lost their minds yesterday. Absorbing a cheap shot at the end. Zadorov, Swayman yelling at teammates. I love the Bronx cheer coming up from the Boston faithful. Oh, we got a goal with a minute remaining. Yay. It actually reminded me of the drought era Bills, like the game they lost to New Orleans, and it's something like 47-3, and Nate Peterman scores a touchdown, and the flags come out in the shout song, because that's what they're paid to do. But it's like, no, read the room here. We don't need to throw off fireworks when we're down by 27. That's what it felt yesterday, for the Bruins there. But key for the Sabres tomorrow night, just the quick start again. Like, you don't want Boston shortening this game, meaning scoreless after 1, scoreless after 2, and now it's a 20-minute game as opposed to a 60. So tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Dan Fates, 13 Wham Buffalo Plus will join us. I got some more Bills thoughts about this draft. And look, if you're somebody who says, I'm not sure how to feel about this, great. That's kind of what this is. We all live in an era where, hey, how did your team do? A+, C, whatever it is. And the analogy I would draw is, like, you play fantasy sports. Most of them will give you a draft grade. And then what does the draft grade really mean? Hey, there were some injuries. Oh, my gosh, I ended up not even making the playoffs. But, ESPN said way back in August I got an A. Well, to me, it seemed like the Bills were drafting based on what they needed for the roster. They needed an edge rusher. They're going to need 4 corners, and they only have 2. And we were joined earlier by Nate Gary. He's like, yeah, for the Bills, you're going to need to certainly go out and get a veteran. By the way, they drafted Pride Jr. out of Missouri. First Missouri guy since A.J. O'Fadale in 1994. Wow, that's a name. But that seems like a special teams play, and that was also a key. Pride is a special teamer. Certainly the punter is a special teamer. We'll have a punting competition. You drafted a couple offensive linemen. Kilgore's interesting. That's the one where you see the production, the numbers from South Carolina. But I don't know how long this defense will take. We always learn that the Sean McDermott defense, wow, the safeties, there's a lot on their plate. Is there in the Jim Leonard defense? Well, Jim Leonard plays safety. So that's why I feel kind of confident that Kilgore as a fifth rounder might be the one, where I'm talking about Bell because we all identified Bell, but maybe Kilgore is the guy later on that say, okay, that was really a good pickup. But again, I don't know. You don't know. That's why it's kind of an incomplete feeling the Monday after a draft, at least for me. I'm ready for the next season. I don't know about you, but that would be a wonderful thing. We'll talk to Dan Fates here coming up in a little bit. This is a story that is bad for college football. It is bad for sports in general. And I guess maybe the only thing that we could say is, well, it took them this long here for a story like this. So Cincinnati quarterback last year, his name's Brendan Sorsby. Brendan Sorsby, all right, you want to improve your stock, your value? You want to make more money? Well, go into the portal. And that's what he did. And so he ended up with Texas Tech, getting paid $5 million to play quarterback for Texas Tech. So Sorsby, one of the top returning quarterbacks, this year, looking forward to it. Going to Texas Tech, going to a bigger program, getting paid. Now, whether he's going to be an NFL prospect, I don't know. But then there's this. Sorsby, today, the school announcing Texas Tech that he is checking into a residential treatment program for gambling addiction. Oh, whoa. Sorsby going back to, he was actually, before Cincinnati, was there for Indiana for a cup of coffee, and they can determine that he actually bet on Indiana to win a game. Which you say, well, what's the harm in that? We'll table that for now. Okay, you can't do it. You shouldn't do it. Any NCAA athlete is told right from the get-go, no betting. But in this day and age, you can certainly conceal things until it gets to be a real big problem. And apparently, this is a real big problem. To the fact that you're checking into treatment. First and foremost, you need to get yourself right, and whether or not the school moves off that, whether or not they stop paying him the $5 million. These are all questions that I don't know the answer to. Texas Tech, for their part, because this is an HR thing now, right? Oops, that's a bad investment, right? They are committed to supporting Brandon through his recovery process and to ensure his long-term health and well-being. So, in a world where everything is legal, and by everything, like you can't tell me, like, all right, we can't bet on the draft, but there are prediction markets now, but that's not gambling. It's all I feel bad for this quarterback because you could say, well, gambling's all about personal responsibility unless you have the addictive gene. And then it doesn't have you don't have control. So, my goodness, he was number one in the transfer portal rankings at quarterback. And to think that none of this might not happen, or it's in serious jeopardy. So that is something that we can certainly talk about. We're going to line up an interview with Don Stevens later in the week. This was yesterday on the show, and I think it's worth playing again. That Amerks wrapped this up, and I've known Don for a number of years, and Don is somebody that he doesn't want to put himself ahead of the team. That's first and foremost. He is there to actually call the game. And the Amerks are down by 1, and they're throwing, even Moss Brooks used the term kitchen sink yesterday. So Don is doing, as he's done here for 40 years in Rochester, painting a picture of the Amerks throwing everything. And then one last time in his career, because not only do you get the excitement of Don when the Amerks score, you get the disappointment of, oh, man, they score. And you could hear the puck being lifted into the air, and you could hear the worry in Don's voice that could go in, and then it went in. And Toronto on the empty netter seals it. 4-2 ends up being the final, and the season's over for the Amerks, which, if you follow the Amerks all along, I don't think if the Amerks got to beyond this round, I think all of us would have been like 2 thumbs up. Good job, boys. That would have been a success. It wasn't meant to be, and I don't think based on the expectation for this particular roster, it's any grave disappointment. It is disappointing, though, that this was it for Don. And then Don, in his sign-off here, it's all starting to hit him. This courtesy of the Amerks Broadcast Network.
Here once again in Toronto as the season draws to a close for the Rochester Americans, coming out on the short end of this one here tonight. Against the Toronto Marlies, 4-2 is the final score. And, it's so sad for a season to come to an end. And so many things are coming to an end here tonight.
Yeah.
Rochester had goals from Helenius and Nadeau, but came up short. And a great night in goal once again for Devin Levi. And such a strong effort for this whole team as they come out again on the short end. And so I don't know if I can get through this or not.
Well, the good thing is the station cleared us for as long as we need, but
but the only thing is you got to talk.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I stop and I think back. There's been so much that's happened in the last couple of months, and so much has been sent my way as far as tributes and accolades, and that it's just been mind-boggling. It's been incredible, but I don't want anybody to lose focus on. It's the team that provides the entertainment and provides what we all love, and that is Rochester Americans hockey. And let's never forget that. So my thanks to the players, to the coaches, to the Amerks staff, hockey staff, and then, of course, to the Amerks office staff. And I've been so privileged to work with so many great people in the office and also on the hockey side. I get to benefit of both sides of it, so that has really meant something. And there's so many things I could say and would like to say. In fact, I figured out that I could say thank you to 100 people a day for the rest of my life and never get to everybody that I need to thank. For all these years of support, all of it meant so much to me. I thank you all. I don't know, thank you to Andrew. Did a great job this year, especially on all those alumni interviews. They were tremendous. And to the organization from Terry Pagula on down, the best organization that I've ever worked for in my 58 years, the best management and ownership group of all those years, and there's just one thing after another, and I can't fit it all in, I don't think. And right now my mind is just a total blockage, if you will, as far as what I should and would like to say. But I am so blessed in this life and this career that I've had what I've had. I couldn't have asked for anything better. And the fans, I love all of you. Thank you so much. And forever in the future, go Amerks.
As Don Stevens wrapping up a 40-year run as the voice of the Rochester Americans. We'll talk to Dan Fates, Buffalo Plus 13 Wham, about the Bills draft. A little Sabre talk, too. And then time for your calls. Last call as well at 866-4326. Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
Rochester Sports Update.
Sabres with a chance to wrap this up in 5. Game 5 tomorrow night, up 3-1 on Boston. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6 o'clock tomorrow here on WGR Rochester. Meanwhile, the season is over for the Amerks. Amerks falling in Game 3 in Toronto by a 4-2 score. Mike Leone, the head coach, reflecting on the season.
I'm really proud of this team. It's been a gruesome year mentally, physically, and guys, we found a way with this group to, in my opinion, push them as far as we could take this group. And that's a first-round exit, but I thought we maximized what we had in the team this year, and I think a lot of our guys got better.
We'll talk some Bills football, draft review. Dan Fates, 13-win of Buffalo Plus, to join us next. Rochester Red Wings open a series at home tomorrow against Worcester. Gene Taglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
I just think, like, if the Bills took Skylar Bell in the second round, would that be putting more pressure on him? Maybe that's also part of this, too. Just the trade down allows guys to kind of develop. Who am I kidding? I know Mr. Trade Up. What do you need for the pick? Be Dan Fates. Dan Fates, Buffalo Plus, 13 wham. And Dan, a lot of people were disappointed that the Bills got out of the first round, or who they selected in the second round. Maybe Saturday provided a little bit of a bounce back, but just kind of ask the open-ended question here. What did you think of the Buffalo Bills draft?
I thought this weekend was kind of a roller coaster. It's so if I hate mock drafts. I hear about talking about people's fantasy teams. I hate talking about your fantasy championship the most, but the post-draft grades may be my absolutely least favorite thing in all of sports. It's just the fact of it's your bias of what you have, and that you're just reiterating what your bias is. None of these guys have played a snap. None of these guys don't have any idea how these teams are going to be used or anything like that. With that being said, Gene, it wasn't hindsight either for us. We talked about it a lot in the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, this illusion all the time with the NFL draft of value. Value. You need to have value in the draft. And so Brandon Beane trades back 3 times on Thursday night, which I commend him for. Didn't think it was possible. Did not think there would be nearly as much trades or as action at the end of that draft. But for the people that came out and said, well, Brandon Beane, it was a masterclass by Brandon Beane. Oh, the Bills had the best draft of the night and they didn't even take a player. I was quickly one to kind of pump the brakes on that. I thought Thursday was very polarizing for Bills Mafia. It felt like everybody either thought Brandon Beane is a wizard and they are back on the Beane hype train, and then people thought he was an idiot. I was somewhere in between, Gene. I really was, because I sat there and I said, you got more value. That's great, but we kind of joke around. James Cook is seen as a good running back and draft pick by Beane because of the value in the second round. He still would, if Beane would have drafted James Cook in the first round, still would have been a great pick. But if you drafted Christian Benford in the second round and he still turns into be a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber cornerback, still a good pick. Puka Nacua is a good wide receiver. Did you get a little bit more value? What it comes down to, in my opinion, is picking the right player. So when I went into Friday night, I said, this is great. The Bills have more value. You don't feel the roster off value. We never talk about a Super Bowl team, Gene, and go, do you know the value they had in this draft class? Like, this is just an unbelievable value. That value has to turn into players. You don't build rosters off value. You build it off talent. And so they go into Wednesday, and I was just undecided. I thought it was an incomplete Thursday night. I can understand the value that the upside and the value that you could get. You got to turn it into players. I'm okay with TJ Parker. It felt much more like a Sean McDermott edge. Didn't really think of it as the speed type. Little concerned about the dip in production, all of those things. My least favorite pick was the IGB pick. I just don't think any of it makes sense to me, Gene. So I was pretty down after Friday. And And then I really liked Skylar Bell. I like Elam Zor. I really liked him. I liked a lot of what they did on day 3, and that just continues the narrative that Brandon Beane does his best work in day 3. That narrative isn't going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, all right, so the IGB pick, let's dive into that. That would be Davison Igbinosun, corner of Ohio State, who and again, like from us from the outside, I don't think any of us really had him as being a second rounder. We talked to Mike Catalana last week and like, hey, is corner Anita? Oh, yeah, you better believe it's a corner. But to take a corner that high, does this in any way signal, hey, this should be a competition for with Maxwell Harrison? Like the Bills are thinking, should we be concerned about Maxwell Harrison here by taking a corner this high in the draft?
Yeah, that was my first thought. And there were a couple of mocks that had the Bills taking a corner in the first round, and I was like, that would really be a red flag as to what they think about Max Harrison or what Jim Leonard maybe thinks about Max Harrison. The reason I was also kind of against, and this is the bigger picture, and then I'll get to kind of how Beane is, or how Beane saw it. Gene, like there are premium draft capital. You know, you talk about those second round picks. And I never really knew if they would go defensive tackle, a Caden McDonald or somebody like that at the end of the first round, because nose tackle, defensive tackle, it's not a premium position in the free agent market. You can go and get nose tackles, big guys, take up space in the free agent market for a couple $1 million. So I didn't know if that would make sense to invest your top end draft capital in that nose tackle position. You know, positions are expensive. Wide receiver, edge rushers, that kind of thing. So I think that makes the most sense to invest draft capital in those because they're so expensive in free agency. Following along?
Yeah.
And so I looked at this pick of IGB and I thought, well, what does this mean for Max Harrison? Because either one of two scenarios is the case, and I don't like either of them, Gene, in my opinion. One is that Maxwell Harrison is seen as maybe too small, injury prone, kind of those not great tackler, like the concerns they had out of school. And after 1 year, they're kind of ready to move on or slide down their first round pick from a year ago, which I don't like doing. And second is you drafted a guy in the second round and moving up to be your third corner, whereas you could bring back Trey White as your third corner, pay him a couple $1 million and get a wide receiver there in the second round, or another edge rusher, or a linebacker there. So that's where I have trouble trying to find this in. And the one thing I really kind of pushed back against Beane that I wasn't thrilled about was that he talked about how it's an impact player. And you're right, Gene, there has never been a team that has said, you know what, we have too many good cornerbacks. We just, you know what, yeah. I hate when we have too many, because we have seen it time and time again in Buffalo that they have injuries, one thing or another. And Beane said, well, if you look like last year, what kind of happened? We ended up having to play Dane Jackson. My mentions were blowing up about Dane Jackson, Gene. Dane Jackson this. Well, they had Dane Jackson playing. I think you missed some context in why Dane Jackson was on the field. Yes, was Maxwell Harrison injured in the Week 18 game against the Jets in the second half? Yes, that's a different story. But you had a healthy corner who was your depth corner in Jamarcus Ingram, who Brandon Beane released for the thought of bringing in Darius Slay, who never showed up. So to kind of sit there and be like, hey, man, we need to have depth at corner because there's injuries that happen, and then you're stuck with Dane Jackson, I don't think tells the whole story, because Dane Jackson wouldn't be out there if they didn't try and make the move for Darius Slay and end up releasing Jamarcus Ingram. So I think when people say Darius, you know, Dane Jackson, I think you're missing a little bit of the important context as to how the Bills got into that spot in Denver.
Yeah. Dan Fates, Buffalo Plus 13 Wham, joining us here. And okay, so the pick of Parker, but this isn't a question about Parker. It was, and this is the fun part when you pick at the top of the second round, like, oh, look who's left. Ooh, yes. And it was a player that you and I had talked about, Denzel Boston. And all right, the Bills passed on Denzel Boston. He goes to Cleveland 4 picks later. Does this signify that, oh my gosh, they're going to give Keon Coleman every opportunity here to actually reclaim a spot here, Dan?
Yeah, sure sounds like it. It sure does. Bean was on WGR in Buffalo and was kind of saying the same thing today of they've reset everything with Keon and that he looks great in these 2 weeks and that it's not just lip service, what Joe Brady has been saying at the owners meeting and the combine and pre-draft evaluations, that this is going to be a real thing with Keon Coleman. I don't think it deserves like a ton of rehashing. Nothing has really happened since then. And look, we can talk at training camp, and Keon Coleman may be having a phenomenal training camp. None of that would surprise me. I thought he had a really good training camp his rookie year. I had then learned that when he looked the exact same in training camp his second year, I just wasn't going to buy into the hype. I was like, hey, the question is never, does Keon Coleman look the part? He absolutely looks the part. And when they don't have pads on, he's physically more dominant. And then when pads come on or gameplay actually happens, he doesn't use his size. He doesn't use his physicality. He doesn't use his athleticism. And corners are able to kind of shut him down. So, look, I think at this point, Brandon Beane also said today that they took trade-off, that a team was talking to them at the Combine about Keon. They said no. Another team talked to them in March. They told them no. They didn't get any calls this weekend about Keon because the word was out there that they're not moving on from Keon. Okay. We'll go from there. I like Skylar Bell, though, Gene.
Oh.
I like Skylar Bell.
That's funny. We had Trapasso on. It was one of those, I got to just ask you, like 30 seconds, what about the – and he was – this is prior to the draft. And, Dan, the thing is about, hey, you want good guys, value, blah, blah, blah. If they took Skylar Bell in round 2, I'm actually not questioning the move whatsoever there.
I thought he was a day 2 guy, whether it was a second or a third round. And in the chaos of everything, and we were doing live shows on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, and you're trying to track everything and Sabres and all this stuff that was going on. I was like, Skylar Bell's still even available? And then they took the early day 3, they take the offensive tackle out of Boston College. And then I'm like, Skylar Bell? Oh, like, I really like this. The concern is valid in can he step up in competition, which I think happens for a lot of players that are under that, Power 5 or not in that Power 5 conversation. So, but you talk about being productive, you talk about versatility, you talk about athleticism off the charts, 96th percentile in the explosion score ranking at the NFL Combine. Whatever that is, it means he's athletic. It's funny, I was going through like social media and people that draft analysis and college football people and all this thing. I really couldn't find anything that, like, besides, hey, he played at UConn and they are kind of played a weak schedule. But production, contested catches, versatility, all the things, seems like he's a great young man with a great head on his shoulders. Everybody talks about his professionalism day in, day out. You know what you're going to expect. I just think that there could be a path for Skylar Bell to make an impact this year. I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah, Dan, there's another move potentially here. Like, he's not on the 90-man roster right now, but he is going to be at rookie minicamp. Jermaine Burton. So, character concerns for sure. You can go look up the video. There's him punch a Tennessee fan storming the field, and he punches her out. And you could say, don't storm the field. And I would say, don't touch a woman under any circumstances. And there's another incident that's alleged. When you have character versus talent, the talent really has to kind of win out. I don't have any evidence of that whatsoever here with Jermaine Burton. Didn't even see the field at all last year. So why are the Bills even messing with this here, Dan?
Trying to turn over every single rock to find something. And, not only that, his last year in Cincinnati, I believe, just wasn't showing up to, team meetings. They didn't know where he was at times. This wasn't not excusing anything, but bad time, you make a mistake, you move on, and everybody deserves a second chance kind of thing, right? That hasn't seemed to be the case. This is a character issues in college, character issues and concerns off the field in the NFL level. So when I first saw it, I just, again, thought that doesn't fit with the Sean McDermott era kind of thing. Whether Joe Brady and Brandon Beane, and there's some connection there that I'm not aware of. I'm not getting my hopes up too much on that end.
The rest of the draft here, whether that's Kilgore or the punter,
Kilgore, yeah,
Kilgore's
like
the guy
Kilgore
you're
a
like,
lot.
okay.
Yeah, I thought he was another one that I thought would be could be the rounds 3 to 4 in the way at the time heading into the draft. Didn't know with what the Bills had entering where he would fit in, knowing they also had other needs. But I thought that the Bills had to leave the weekend with a safety. I thought, and you talk about, well, fit versus traits. I think he's raw, but he is absolutely physical, big nickel, not afraid of contact, can fly around, good size and length. Like, that's a guy you draft on just physical traits and say, hey, I could mold this into something. So really like what Jalen Kilgore was. That was another move. Like I said, I really liked day 3. I was incomplete on day 1. Really didn't like day 2. Didn't like the Jude Bowery draft pick. But after that, I thought it was 3 picks in a row that I thought made a ton of sense and that they were great value.
Dan, with everything going on, we had a Sabre playoff game on a Sunday afternoon, which was so relaxing to watch, and just to see Boston unravel, not just on the ice, but with Swayman chirping at his own teammates, Zadorov losing his mind. Dan, this just feels like it's a golden opportunity for the Sabres here to wrap this up quick tomorrow night.
I couldn't agree more. But how was the rest of your Sunday, Gene?
I don't know what we're talking about. We're talking about the Sabres here. The Sabres wanted to get your thoughts about Montreal or Tampa as I'm trying to pivot off of something else. All right, you went there. Like, Boston fires their manager. Why is Mendoza still managing the Mets, Dan? Why? Why?
I looked at Mike. Mike comes on the other day and goes, oh, I was just on with Gene. I said, love that. I go, that's weird. He had me on like right before the start of the MLB season, and then I don't get a text or a call as the Mets lose 12 games in a row and the Braves have the best record in baseball. I was like, this is so weird. Like, I guess
Wait.
How you doing, bud?
It hasn't been that long, Dan, has it? I got to look this up now. Now you're in my head here. It wasn't before baseball season. Well, you take Soto out of the lineup, and then immediately Lindor goes out of the lineup. But you hired.
Hey, the Rockies are a really pesky team. Rockies are a great team. There's nothing to hang your head about.
So, yeah,
it's going to be such a long summer for you, Gene.
No, actually, it isn't because, see, you were in this position last year, and as I recall, you kind of punted on baseball.
Oh, every time free.
Yeah, I think my wife yesterday is like, you don't want to switch over the Mets. I'm like, nope. Honestly, I think I'll go do some yard work instead. And you know what? I was a little more productive after the Sabre game ended yesterday, Dan. I listened to the end of the Amherst game.
That's right.
And, great. We got swept by Colorado. And the manager's still here.
1 run.
Yeah.
1 run.
Yeah.
18 innings. Is that bad?
Yeah, well, and then I get mad at Mendoza. Don't hire the Milwaukee GM, and you're using Milwaukee logic. I'm sorry, that doesn't work in that division. Like, Mike was very diplomatic, by the way. I teed it up for him last week to say, Mike, you can thank me because if it's not for the Mets, the Phillies would actually have the worst record in the league.
Yes. Yeah, this is – again, I didn't see this coming from the Braves. I really didn't. And I think I was telling you, like, not really excited about the season. Pretty excited. I'm not gonna lie. This is pretty awesome. But just think, Gene, your house is going to be in better shape, inside and outside. You're going to be a better husband. Like, you're going to be more present. It's what it was for me last year. It is freeing. But like I said, you just can't. When they go on the 5-game winning streak, I don't want to see you get hurt.
Don't call you. Don't text you. If we get to a point where the Mets beat Atlanta 2 out of 3, which won't happen this year, Dan, It's just not going to happen.
Are you going to pitch for them?
Anybody
the pitching,
could.
because Senga's horrific.
He has been horrific. It shouldn't be a surprise. Like, that was the plan? The bullpen? Like, Devin Williams, wow. Like, who knew that he really wasn't the best option at closer? I don't know. Maybe ask anybody who watched baseball on the other side of town there, Dan. I don't know.
Hey, Gene, also, no plan at first base. You guys just went cheap and have no plan at first base.
No, yeah, we're going to outsmart everybody and get the utility guy from Seattle who can't get on the field. That was literally the plan. Vientos, okay, never played first base. Dan,
Beatty.
Yeah.
Beatty, not great.
Well, I'm planning to go to Pittsburgh in August, and by that point the Mets will be
Great
out
ballpark.
of it. Great ball. That's what I'm saying. I'm just going to go, and I'm hoping that it'll time out where I can see Skeens. So I'm recalibrating, Dan.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to give up baseball. I'm not going to give up on my team. I'm just going to shelve it for a little while. Shelve it. How's that?
I appreciate that. It's very very brave of you. Very mature.
Dan, tell everybody what I tried not to. I didn't bring it up. Dan, what Buffalo Plus there, the schedule, there is a lot up there we can go consume.
Yeah, we had live shows on Thursday and Friday. We also had full end of the night recaps from rounds 1, day 2, and then a full recap of what Brandon Beane had to say as we the picture of the draft class kind of came together. So tons of content up there. We'll have another podcast coming up on Wednesday. Mike and Jenna will be at the Sabres game on Tuesday. I'm holding down the fort here today at the station. So Bills, Sabres, Amherst, good stuff going on.
Yeah. Dan, thank you, Dan. Made me feel better about myself. Have a great day, Dan.
Yeah. You too. You too, Gene. Appreciate you. Go Braves.
And meanwhile, Schneider over there, ass-eating grin. Just an ass-eating grin. Just
It's fun when you get angry.
Give me back my son!
Final thought coming up next. It's the Sports Bar, WGR Rochester.
Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Ever notice this, whether it's you're going to a website or you're just signing up for some new service or maybe your bank, and then all this legal mumbo jumbo, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I understand. Click here. I mean, we don't take the time to read that. When could something like that come back to bite you? Oh, boy. It's the story with no end. It's the sinkhole of the NFL. Vrabel and Rossini and another new angle, and it involves the idea that might have been a criminal act? Wait a second. So, report over the weekend was, no, that was not a private investigator. That was just another couple taking the photos at the resort in Arizona. Like, if we're there, like, oh, my gosh, that's Vrabel. Wait, he's there with a reporter, and you're taking photos, and they saw an opportunity, and they sold the photos, right? End of story. No. If Rossini and Vrabel want to, they have a case because Ambiente Sedona, who, by the way, that resort, wow, it looks like a great resort. Can I have the Vrabel room, please? They make you sign something that I think probably you don't want to read. That their photography is prohibited to times when other guests are not included. Taking photos in public spaces that invades other guests' privacy. Sign here. Holy mackerel. Yeah, that's one of those documents I'm sure they didn't read. And what do you need to prove in a civil suit? Did those photos damage the I can't even say it. Yes, those photos damaged the reputation of Di and Mike. I'm showing the video to the executive producer over the weekend, Tim, like, what does this look like? What was the best part of your birthday? Like, yeah. So, sure. Like, if they want to sue this couple, now this couple who sold it for, 10 feet, that's why TMZ stayed away. TMZ was like, no. We don't want to get sued. We're TMZ, but even we're above that. Fun show today. As always, we had a great conversation with Dan Fates up until the end where he had to razz me about the Mets. We also talked to Nate Geary. Tomorrow on the show, we will talk to Mike Leone one last time, head coach of the Emerks for this season. We'll also talk to Matt Perino from the Shout podcast. For Dan DeLorean, for Tim Schneider, my name is Gene Battaglia. Show from the Bulldog. Coming your way next year on WGR Rochester.